brother, this one here really do it for you.
Baby, I'm yours. Yeah, baby, I'm yours. If it come down to that, let me show you how to play.
Y'all about my big bro Gerard in the podcast crew.
Miss Barbara, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Yes.
Okay, there's.
Good. How are you?
I am good. Hey, so real quick, it's gonna be an easy fix. There is a little delay. I'm gonna ask you if you don't mind while I introduce you and get everybody ready. I think it caught up right now. Can you hear me? Okay.
I do.
Okay, so let's push. So, hey, welcome to another episode of the Floor is Yours podcast. Y'all, we are so sorry. We had a few technical difficulties, but, you know, we worked through it. We're here. We're hoping to bring y'all another great show on attachment shot styles. Y'all know the game. You know the name of the game. Go ahead and like, share if you haven't done it. Invite people to tune in and be a part of this spirited discussion. But I'm going to take a moment and introduce this great guest. Her name is Barbara Diaz, and she is instead of me doing, I'm going to let you go ahead and just take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us what brought you to the show.
Yes. So thank you for having me again. My name is Barbara Diaz, and I am the founder of the Living Garden Framework. And so what that is it's a whole system model. So like educational model that I created. It was birthed from my own trauma and then my educational background in sociology and psychology. And so what I integrate, and I have my own paper here so I don't mess it up, because I constantly am talking about it, and it's so complex that I just want to make sure that I express it correctly. So it's a whole system model that helps individuals understand how trauma, environment, and experience shape identity, behavior, and relationships. Rather than viewing people as broken, the framework recognizes individuals as layered systems that can be understood, restored, and aligned. And so it integrates psychology, sociology, somatic body-based awareness, generational insight, and optional spiritual interpretation. And how this even came about was honestly like deep shadow work. So I'm a survivor of trauma practically, really my entire life.
Before you move,
I'm sorry.
Before you move.
Yes.
So my first job in the Army, and you're an Army vet too. So you're
a vet, yeah.
My first job was a mechanic. So a lot of what you said meant nothing. So if you had to break that down for a cook or a mechanic.
Yes, I got you. So I was a 9-to-5. I just automated logistics. So what I say, it's like the not so modern Amazon. So I get that. Yeah. So basically, it was created. It's a curriculum. So I'm even going into my master's program for education. So I actually am leaving a 15-year career to go into education to teach. So my master's, and then to get my PhD in education. So I took my own personal trauma that was stemmed from childhood and romantic relationships, and did so much what's called shadow work therapy, and in essence healed so much so that I created a curriculum to help parents and adolescents heal with the idea that we're a system, our whole body system, meaning that we need to take care of our body and heal our body, not just our emotions and our mind, but somatically within our body. We often forget as people that we are our biology. We're a machine. God made us perfectly imperfect, meaning that we're layered, and we need to take care of all these layered parts in order to successfully heal wholly. Yeah. So while therapy, and it's non-clinical. So instead of becoming a psychologist or psychiatrist, I teach psychology, and I teach from the lens of sociology, which is the like literally the education of the world. So
Yeah.
nature versus nurture, and specifically attachment styles. So
Yeah. That's good.
my
Yeah.
okay, go ahead
Yeah,
again.
so yeah, so I'm glad just you mentioned attachment styles, and that's something that I've been interested in a long time. And it's something if it's the right word to use, amazing about attachment styles, that it happens so early in your life, but it literally affects you for the rest of your
Yeah,
life.
you.
It's,
Yep,
it's an unknown phenomenon if that's the right word to use too, right? So
it
tell us
is. It's a
yeah,
yeah.
tell us what attachment styles are.
Yeah, so it's an actual social like a psychological and sociological theory. So it's a psychosocial theory.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if I can, but the actual theorist. So it basically an attachment style. It occurs from ages 0 to 2,
Uh-huh.
um, and it is what creates our beliefs and systems of how we should not just care for one another, but ourselves. So our primary caregivers are the ones that, in essence, create it.
Yeah.
So, and when I learned about attachment styles, I say God gave me the key of truth. And so what it did for me was it allowed me to understand why I was repeating the same patterns and behaviors in romantic relationships, in the way that I would parent,
Yeah.
and then why I was in essence we call addicted to chaos, addicted to the
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember you told me that when you used that phrase "addicted to chaos," I resonated with it because I know I've been in relationships. I've said and I've heard people say things like, if you haven't been through anything, I don't want to have anything to do with you. So it almost romanticizes trauma, and it gives people what they consider to be legitimacy to be in or the okay to be in a toxic relationship, and almost expect that. Would you agree with that?
Correct. And actually that's correct. So when I learned about attachment styles, I took the idea that it's, the self, and I was able to understand it from the perspective of our generations before us. And the reason why my mind expanded that big in instead of doing self-healing was because I started seeing the patterns and behaviors not only within myself and then these relationships, but in my children. And then my children were now socializing in school. So now I have a teenager, and she was experiencing the same things as a teenager that I experienced as a woman. So
Mhm.
then, and then as I was doing a lot of therapy to heal my own PTSD and depression and all these things, no, my therapist had never mentioned attachment styles. And the story behind attachment styles and how I found it was because I actually Googled, how does one have emotions?
Mhm.
And I had an argument with my ex, and it was like, oh well, you feel this way and I feel this way. Well, how does one feel? And when I Googled how does someone have emotions, it led me to attachment styles. And then there's an assessment, and then you can, if, depending on the outcome, you will fall into 4 categories.
Okay,
And
let's
my
let's go
category
there.
was very different. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go there and talk about the different categories. So just real quick, the four is the secure attachment, right? It's the secure, the anxious, the avoidant, and the disorganized. So I
Yep.
think it'd be good to just start off with what's ideal. Like if I think the world would be a better place, maybe it will, maybe it won't. If everybody had a secure attachment. So let's take a minute and talk about what the secure attachment is.
Yeah. And I have some talking points here because I'm always a student, meaning I always have notes. So, secure attachment style is when you have emotional safety, consistency, healthy communication, and trust. And we don't see that often.
It's just
um,
crazy that you
well,
say that. We don't see it often because that's the North Star. That's what everybody is gunning for. And the word that's become popular lately is cosplay. Where people put this act on
mm,
who they want to be versus who they really are. And there's a lot of cosplaying, I think, of people who say that they have a secure attachment style.
yeah, that's what I call the mask. Everyone wears a mask. And in my framework, I use symbolism. I teach with actual symbolism. That's how I end up teaching my children. And so the apple is the mask. So it's shiny, and then you bite into it and it's bruised. Or if you find an apple and it's bruised, it would represent like a child that's probably acting out, and people would then call that bad. But they're acting out from something that they're missing within their childhood. So the attachment style is correlated with your Eric Erickson's 8 stages of development.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this really interesting gift, I guess you could say, or a keen sense of awareness. Where if I see an attachment style and I know and I can tell it's not secure, then I'm able to pinpoint that missing link in that childhood.
That's good. So let's talk about what the attachment specific, the secure one actually looks like. So ideally, we'll take you back to your childhood. What needs to
I can't tell you because I am just now at 40 years old with having a secure.
Yeah. Well, so it's just a hypothetical. If I'm a child and my parents are there, like what does a secure attachment
so in a secure attachment style for a child, and I have one with my son and my daughter. My son specifically, because he's 4 turning 5, so it was easier to have that with him, whereas my daughter, now I'm kind of trying to get her to be secure. So for him, emotional safety, I am his safe place. He feels open and to tell me everything. He does not reject me physically. So our attachment styles and our trauma starts in the body. So we need to feel safe in our body with ourselves and each other. So he has no problem coming to me for safety. I calm his nervous system. And he's actually said, "Mommy, you calm me." So, and he is very, emotionally intelligent too. It's not just I pick up his needs and his cues; he picks up mine.
Wow.
So
how
he can sense 4.
He's 4. So let's even go back. If I'm understanding right, that's developed like even before then. Like, and the example that I heard, just say that you have a child and you take your son to daycare, and he knows that you're going to come back. So there's no anxiousness, or at least at a bad level. Am I understanding that right?
Correct. There will be some, right? Because they're so little, they're completely dependent on us. So there will be that anxiousness. So when I did drop them off at daycare, there was that, where's mommy, but repetition. So it takes 21 days to create a habit. So repetition of good and bad is what creates our attachment style. Or the repetition of mommy's here, mommy's gone, or, caregiver here, caregiver gone. That creates what I call the yo-yo effect, and that creates anxiousness. So because you don't know what to expect. And so that domino effects into other types of behaviors. An attachment style is the language that is that you outwardly display to the world and yourself based on this childhood, the way that I've developed a relationship with my son.
So if you're a stay home mom, you're not taking him to daycare, he never gets used to being without you, is it automatically or likely that he's going to develop something other than a secure style?
Right, an anxious one. So there's 4. So there's like anxious, avoidant, and then preoccupied. But there will be an anxiety there because he's not been properly. Well, I don't want to say properly. He's not been socialized to even get the measure, right? So when you have good and bad experiences, we all need good and bad experiences to measure that. And then it invokes a feeling, and so then that child would never have a way to measure if mommy's gonna, like, in anticipation, if mommy's gonna come back or daddy's gonna come back, because he's never experienced it. He's just had one solid person to anchor him. So while it's good, it can harm when now the expectation is at school to socialize and also to listen to other people's rules.
Yeah. So I like that you said it's good and bad, because I think most moms or parents in general, mom and dad, would want someone to be able to be home and not have to take that child to daycare. But it sounds like you said that could have some adverse effects.
Right, because imagine a teacher, and a lot of teachers, they do experience this, especially at the pre-K and K, those years where they are being integrated. They do have those kids that do not trust teachers, and teachers need to receive that trust to, effectively teach. And it would be irrational to expect that there's that one-on-one attention. They have X amount of students. So now you have one child that unfortunately is experiencing what we call little t, little trauma, by not having mom there and being in this big gigantic world to them, and they don't have a sense of safety because mom or dad or caregiver has been the only thing they know.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's a good segue to go into the next attachment style, which is anxious. So, is there a definition you have to tell us what anxious attachment means and
Yes.
then what it looks like?
So let me see, because I have so many things in front
Okay.
of me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right here. Sorry. um Okay, anxious, fear of abandonment, overthinking. And these are descriptive things that you'll see outwardly, like behavior. And I say behavior because it's a label I tend to not want to use,
Yeah.
but you have to use it. Fear of abandonment, overthinking, hypervigilance, people pleasing. Many people confuse emotional intensity with love.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's good. Is there a definition um, of that you have? If not, I can pull it up real quick so we can go. But do you have like a definition that could let us know what it actually is? I had it. How about I read it and then we'll talk about it.
Sure.
Okay. So an anxious attachment style, also called an anxious ambivalent attachment, is an insecure
Ambivalent.
attachment marked by strong desire for closeness, fear of
Hmm.
abandonment, and a high need for reassurance in relationships. So we hear a lot of that. The word that stands out to me is, what stands out is where it says a high need for reassurance, and that
Yes.
creates. So let's talk about this high need for reassurance, because I heard that it's okay and you need to be reassured in a relationship. But I think
Sure.
what stands out is that it says a high need. Is that
Yes.
what makes the difference?
It lots. And so unfortunately, as society has kind of created, and I say society, our society has created men and women differently because the expectations are different. Women tend to have this more than men, and they then are labeled needy. So basically, the reassurance that they're not going to leave, the reassurance that they're going to they attach themselves to that person for a sense of safety. Overly, they won't even have a person with an anxious attachment won't even have a life outside of their own,
Oh wow.
because they're fixated on that person to make them feel safe. In essence, they are what I would say, like if you're going skydiving, they are the parachute. They're the thing that keeps them floating afloat and safe. Otherwise, if they don't have that person, they're going to tank.
Wow. Was as you were describing that, I'm thinking about what I see on social media and where a lot of people are longing for a relationship. And
Absolutely.
not that that's necessarily wrong, but to your point, if they are tying their entire identity and happiness into a relationship, that can be what you're saying, an insecure attachment, right?
Correct. And then also, as women, and I mean, I understand now, we're getting more dads involved, but we as women become attached to our families, our children, and then we become people pleasers, and then we become the martyr. And so there's a lot of things that happen by having this attachment. And so that anxious attachment was created in childhood because a caregiver left. Can you imagine a baby crying? And this is from 0 to 2.
Yeah,
And there's no one, they're crying for safety. So um it will alienate people
yeah,
because we are all made the same, but all of our attachment styles are different. So if I'm anxious and you're avoidant, I will then push you away.
yeah. So it says also fear of rejection and abandonment is another
Yeah.
thing. So I'm thinking about it from the aspect of a child when it's being developed. So how does
I
that
can give
go
an
from a
example.
child to? Mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to just ask, how does you go from a child to fearing rejection and abandonment? I'm just saying, where's that bridge?
How does that work? So yeah, and that's how I end up picking the pattern recognition. Not only in me and what I experienced, because I used to have an anxious attachment in my 20s, in my early 20s, based on how my mom raised me. But for example, for my son or my child, well, my son specifically, even my daughter, she's a teenager. But for example, if my son wanted to help me with the groceries, and I told him no, because we tend to do that. Like, you're in the way, let me just get this done. He has a feeling of wanting to help. So the little kids at that age want a sense of autonomy. They want to have a role, a place within the family. And also, kids that young, they don't see themselves outside of their family themselves. Then when they integrate in school, they see themselves, like I always say, like a layer, like an onion. Then you see yourself, and then your peers, and then the teachers.
Mhm.
So when kids are at home, they only see their immediate safety. So if I were to push my son away while he's trying to help me with the groceries, because he has that innate feeling to help me, and then to help mommy and love mommy and nurture mommy, I have pushed away his feelings, and I have never returned to address that feeling.
Oh, wow.
Meaning that if I push him away and say, get out of the way, you're in my way, shoo, move, he will then take that as, I'm not good enough,
Oh, wow.
or something is wrong with me. My mom does not want me.
Yeah.
So then he internalizes that as, I am the problem. And then that is an abandonment all on its own.
Oh, wow. So
And that
anytime,
carries into relationships.
yeah. So when they're in a relationship, if they're detecting any animosity or wrong, or maybe feelings of just, I don't know.
Detachment.
Yeah. Now that's how it comes out, and now they're worrying that the mate
It's
would be
me.
possibly, yeah, leaving them. Wow.
Yeah, that it's me. And then that will create what I call a self-fulfilling prophecy, because that person will detach. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's it's not a healthy way to love. It's actually very smothering. So then I end up pushing that person away, and now he's created in my mind that I am not worthy, I am not good enough.
Oh, wow.
That's the
Yeah.
trauma cycle.
Let's
I
talk about,
talk with my hands a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. The attachment. Next one is the avoidant attachment. So I
I
got this.
was that too.
So avoidant
This is
attachment
why yeah.
is avoidant attachment is an insecure attachment style as well, in which individuals tend to avoid emotional closeness, minimize intimacy, and maintain distance in relationships. So
Yeah.
I think man, that's a lot of people. I think it can be misconstrued, if you will, to someone who's making sure that they don't allow everyone into that close, intimate space. So, how do you know the difference between someone who's like, you know what, this is a closed, intimate, sacred space versus I'm just keeping everyone away? Like, I could see the
Um,
confusion in there.
because for me, I was able to detect it. For one, I experienced it. So I have a disorganized, or had a disorganized one, which is literally a combination of everything that you're describing. So your innate desire is to seek love. That was programmed in our biology. So we subconsciously will go out and seek love. And then when it comes actually knocking on your door, you don't know what to do with it. So you avoid.
Yeah.
So you will see it in a person when they're the back and the forth, what maybe like a called a flighty kind of personality, the back and the forth. And for me, I can tell that you want a closeness, and then when it actually happens, you almost don't know what to do with it. Unfortunately, more men than not experience this,
That's
and
good.
so what I teach is not behavior, more as we don't have a behavioral issue. We have a capacity issue and a containment issue, meaning that we don't have the space in our brain to understand our emotions because it was never taught. And then if you don't have the space and I give you all my emotions,
Yeah.
you cannot contain it. You don't have enough a container to keep my emotions. So then
Okay.
you tend to throw them away.
That's good. That's good. And to the audience, the comments are coming in, so we're gonna make sure.
Oh no, I don't see anything.
I'll put them on the screen, but just to let the audience know, keep them coming, and we'll get to them. But some of the things that stand out with the avoidant attachment is crazy because these seem like things that we should be seeking after, or personalities that we should be okay with. And one says high value for independence. Avoidants often see themselves as self-sufficient and believe they don't need others for emotional support. So
hyper independence.
Yeah, I'm just saying how I hear that a lot, like right in these days and times where you need to be able to stand on your own, and should the need arise. But at the same time, I'm seeing this saying like that could be a not so good thing.
And I'd like to give an example of that. So kind of it's the same situation, the same analogy that I use about my son. So if in romantic, so it's called hyper independence. And then you have so we should be interdependent. And that's where people say, it takes a village, and it's true. Because if I'm in a romantic relationship, and we've described women as nurturers and men as protectors, we both want to help each other. But if I'm hyper independent, what I would end up inadvertently doing is pushing that man away and making him feel that he is not wanted, needed. And then unfortunately, they tend to go elsewhere and find that, because men want to be needed, but so do women. Yeah. So what I say is allow even if you don't need the help, allow for the collective, the entire, both relationships, to experience being needed and wanted, because that creates the bond.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And this other one right here, emotional suppression, it says they may hide or downplay feelings such as sadness, anger, or fear to avoid vulnerability. We're both ex-military, and that sounds like every soldier that I've served with, seen serve, to hide or downplay feelings such as sadness, anger, to fear to avoid vulnerability. Right. Soldiers are tough. Men are tough. Black people are tough. Puerto Ricans are tough. Right. But are we unknowingly teaching toxic behaviors if we don't learn how to turn it off?
We are, because our attachment style is passed down from generations before us. And so what I was able to do was when I learned about attachment styles, and I learned that my mom in essence created it, then I had to think about, well, who created it for her? But then if her parents created it, then I'm like, wait, so this has been going on since the beginning of time. And so I took this knowledge and actually went to the social, social science lens. So when I see this, I see it in systems of how did it start? Well, I don't want to say it started with slavery, but if you think about, what we are dealing with today, which is no different than what we've been dealing with since slavery and the oppression of people. Our attachment style was created from, colonial times and being stolen from our home. Can you imagine right now? I mean, I know you said your child is older, but can you imagine somebody just going into your house and ripping your whole family apart? Can you imagine the amount of PTSD that is going to come from that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So we got a lot of comments coming in. Oh, Monica, I got a lot of people from my hometown on here. She said,
military folks. Oh no.
Married. I think her husband's a first sergeant, master sergeant right now. But yeah, she said also that they are not emotionally intelligent for a relationship. A lot of pushing and pulling. So let's talk about that. Like we earlier talked about how it's formed, but more specifically now, how does it show in these current relationships? You got everybody, not everybody, but most people want to be in a healthy relationship, and they don't even know what the problem is.
How to
start. So how can understanding your attachment style make a difference in your relationship now?
So I always give my personal testimony, which I'm okay doing because I'm an open book. It's the only way that I've been able to relate theory, actual theory, to my personal life and then my children, and actually be like, okay, I can see where this is actually being applied. And I'm like, my own guinea pig. But I'll give perfect examples. So, you mentioned military. So military, we're conditioned to be at war, at constant defense. Like from basic training, it's teaching how to, kill the enemy. So what I see is we're not teaching how to human, because through all these missions in life, we're still a human being inside. So attachment styles, what it did for me was understand the patterns and behaviors that I was consistently repeating that caused me hurt. So I was seeking validation from men and other people and or food to fill the void that my mom created. And one recent thing that happened, since we're speaking about the military, my son's father was not super connected to my son emotionally. So like I said, my son is very emotionally attached to me. So a lot of times we can say that's mommy, they're a mama's boy, or they tend to always gravitate toward their moms first, and dad's kind of rough and tough, and they do the whole football and they play. And that's the limited belief that we have about our roles as parenting. Now, what I noticed was that when he was transitioning from being an active duty soldier and constantly having soldiers under him, which is a massive amount of responsibility, to retirement, my son gravitated towards dad because my son finally felt safety with dad because dad was able to regulate his nervous system. How? Because now he has less responsibility. We are dealing with chronic stress, all of us, men, women, single mothers, the entire world is chronically stressed with day-to-day lives. But when I was noticing that he was gravitating towards dad more, instead of feeling like, oh, he doesn't want me anymore, I was like, oh my God, this is the scientific stuff that I teach and that I see. He's now transitioning out of less responsibility. He's been able to relax. His nervous system is relaxed. My son went to dad.
Oh, wow.
So he's safe.
Yeah. So we're going to continue. There's a lot of comments. We're going to keep coming back to them, but let's take a commercial break. And on the other side of the commercial, we'll continue the discussion.
Protest against segregation, even against innocent children. They were willing to use dogs and fire hoses, and the children were undeterred, coming back to protest again.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Hey, you gotta try to take advantage of that commercial time. So, hey, that was a documentary that we're working on here at the Floor is Yours podcast. It's a term that not a lot of people like, but if you follow me, I'm all about being provocative and in your face. And we're in challenging times right now. We're talking about attachment styles, and a lot of that, you and I talked about, a lot of that is engineered. Even from outside of the home. And this right here talks about that, how our behaviors not only affect us, but they affect our children and our children's children. So that film is going to cover a lot of stuff. It's not what people probably think it's going to be. It's going to really talk about that term, about what it means to be a coon and the fallout within the community. So follow the Floor is Yours podcast and this for its upcoming release date, and I think it's going to be good. Yeah. So what you think so far? How you enjoying being on the show?
Good. I'm glad I don't get to see the comments because I'd be all over the place. I'll let you handle that. I'm having a blast. I hope people are learning, and my biggest hope, even with my own work, is that we can learn to have compassion for everybody, because this is stuff that was created, like you said, engineered. It isn't our fault. And it isn't our fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my ex-husband's fault. It's not my children's fault. And so if we can take the blame and the shame, then we can work at it instead of consistently, missing each other. We're just missing each other. We need a blank canvas to work on.
Yeah, good. So knowing is half the battle. You remember the old G.I. Joe saying right there. So let's go to a couple more of the comments right here. Monica says military people are trained to not get attached and move accordingly. And you're right. For a fighting force, we are coined the greatest fighting force in the world, right? But you think about what it takes to build the ideal troop, the ideal soldier, and that's a lot of maybe it's not the right word to use, but trauma building that goes in there to create this soldier that could perform at his highest level on the battlefield. I remember being in Afghanistan and losing a soldier to a roadside bomb and having to go out the next day like what just happened the day before it didn't happen, right? So you do
Right.
build up these abilities and this need to detach from what reality is so that you can keep going. So Monk is right. Military people who train are trained to not get attached and move accordingly. I'll let you.
And then they have to, yeah, and then they have to go home to their family because we create families, and which is why a lot of soldiers come back with PTSD and are, not they're not them. They don't come back the same. We get so disassociated with our own feelings. This happened to me. I'm a war veteran. I went to Iraq, and I was doing security. I was patting down women that could have been bombers, suicide bombers. So I didn't realize I was doing that. It didn't hit me, I think, about 5 to 10 years later that I had even done that because I was so detached from reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Monica said, I appreciate that. They strip you down. They do. Uh,
Yeah.
remember going through boot camp when they do Shark Week and they soldier, and you're right. They do that. I completely understand. So, Tamika says, right, we all want to be needed, but not emotionally worn down. And you're right. We were
Yeah.
talking about that. Was that the anxious or avoidant? One of them. But you're right.
Well, a combination of both, because
Huh?
you tend to, yeah, when you have an attachment style, you tend to, so two things. Your attachment style comes out, the language, the behavior comes out at that pinnacle moment that whatever was missed in your childhood. So, I used to be very, I guess you would call bratty, like in my 20s, meaning that it was my way or the highway. And who does that? Children.
Yeah.
um, so we tend to outwardly express that need that was missed. So in relationships, if I didn't get my way, I would act out and force the person to do what I wanted because my mom hadn't done it when I was a kid.
Oh,
And
wow.
then the other thing that the attachment style does is that we're magnets to the person that can fill the hole. So I have a nurturing spirit and a really big heart. So I tend to attract wounded people that want love. And knowing your attachment style can eliminate that worn down effects because it gives you the ability to leave. It is okay to leave. That's
It's,
what I say.
yeah. So the title the podcast says when space feels like rejection. And
Yes.
that's a hard feeling, right? And I just think about what that means to a person. Just in the scenario that I put on Facebook promoting the show was someone saying that they needed to go to a spa because they just needed some me time, and the other person taking that as rejection. So
Yeah.
yeah, but you talked about when we were meeting the other day, but a lot of this stuff is correctable and not often in the moment. But what kind of advice would you give someone who's dealing with someone that has this fear of rejection, of being broken up with because
Mm.
somebody just simply needs space?
Yeah. So for me, I feel like I always say everything starts with self, meaning that you have to, and I'm teaching my daughter this. My daughter's a teenager entering the dating world, and I see her attachment clear. She's completely attached to wanting to be with this person all the time, and she will lose herself. So, what I would say is do not lose yourself. You have to attach to yourself first. What that looks like for me in this stage in life is that I am seeking and going towards my personal goals. At 40, I'm going for my master's and my PhD, and I'm changing career paths. So I'm committed to living the next 40 years, if God allows me to, with the things that bring me happiness, and that whatever I am learning, I can also, I always say, pay it forward
Yeah,
by helping others.
yeah,
So to it's okay to attach to people, but it's not okay to make that your center because people
yeah,
are going to disappoint you.
yeah,
Like, and I think that's the other thing is that learning your attachment style does not stop. behaviors that will hurt, it allows you to manage them in a healthy way and and meet the person where they're at and have compassion and understanding so that we can alter the way that we love someone. We need to love people how they want to be loved and treated, not the way that we only know how to love and treat, which is often wrong.
Yeah, you know, Barbara, there's a lot of music out there. I'm a big music fanatic, right? And some of the songs, stuff like "I Can't Breathe Without You," "I Need
Oh
You,"
yeah.
"I Would Die Without You." You put those lyrics to a nice beat and a nice voice, and it really shapes how people look at relationships. I call it the
Yep.
romanticized love, and it's not that
Yep.
anything is wrong with romanticized love, but I've heard and I read that the issue with it is that if it's built off that the minute that it comes down, people panic, right?
Correct.
So go ahead, please talk on
I
that.
was gonna say, and to add to that, that I actually had a conversation months ago with someone like that because I'm Puerto Rican, and the Puerto Rican culture, we watch something called novelas, which is basically your soap operas, and they're very, very passionate. If you've ever heard, someone describe a Puerto Rican, they're just so spicy and passionate, and I think some of that has to do with the way that we were exposed to television and the arts, because in that soap opera world, you get to see relationships, and there's like the slap in the face, and then the intimacy, and you get convinced that, oh my god, when I find love, I want that thing, because that's what you learn.
Really?
um
In the face
and
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 then
even
reconciling?
say again.
That slap in the face and then reconciling, that sounds like breakup to makeup.
Exactly. And you literally end up replicating the things that you see. So when we say, we need to be very careful what we expose our children, it is because that is part of the language that they're learning. The education from everything starts at home. I mean, literally. And even, for example, if my daughter's watching TV, her little teenage shows, they may show kids going to school and having their relationships with their peers, but what they're not showing is the reality of what it takes to study hard and get good grades, the highs and lows. So you see a very, very small synopsis, an episode of a teenage life based on a TV show, but then when she's sitting there crying because she's exhausted and she's burnt out, you're not seeing that on TV. So it gives a very fake kind of reality of how, and then these expectations, this what I call the microwave expectation of quick results, and no one sees the work.
Yeah,
um
and it's admirable to learn them, right, and figure out what attachment style or styles you have. But the work starts when you are actually trying to be in a relationship or manage a healthy relationship, right? It's more than
mhm.
just reading and knowing it, living it, and trying to become better and do better is where the hard work is. So I like this comment right here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Monica said you got a call, so we're gonna have to get you in. Monica also said, she said, when I discovered this and took the test, she said she was
Yeah.
fearful and avoidant, disorganized. My therapists have worked so hard breaking me down. And that's the thing. You got to do the work, and it's not easy. We talk about the
No.
stigma in our communities, especially in under served communities, the stigma that comes with putting in this kind of work. You don't want to be labeled crazy, right? And being wrong,
Yeah. Or
the issue is always looked down on and frowned upon. But yeah, let's talk about how necessary it is to do the work and what the barriers are to doing the work.
I mean, I'm still doing the work. I recently I'm military. And so I was stationed here at Fort Hood. And then, I was at Fort Polk for some years. And when I went to visit for a family friend's birthday party, I went to show my daughter where she was born and end up driving and showing her like, hey, because, she left at 1 years old to go to another duty station. And I showed her where she was from, where she was born. And going to the hospital, I didn't feel almost anything. I think I was so detached because she was my first child. Um, Being a first time mom is scary to me, based on my trauma. I never want to hurt my children. So then I was so detached. But when I went to go to where I worked, and when I did JRTC, I broke down in tears. I went back to where I used to live with my ex-husband, and I broke down in tears. And so I had a lot of hidden wounds that I didn't know I had. And that crying, that somatic release, allowed me to close, I would I say close that circle, and I never have to revisit it again.
Mhm.
And one of the things attachment style did for me personally is it helped me forgive who hurt me. So my mother hurt me. I was able to silently forgive her, which means that I understood her pain.
Mhm.
Now I see her as a mother and a woman and a single mother coming from a whole nother country. So I see things so differently, and I was able to give so much grace. And I know she didn't mean to hurt me because someone hurt her. And then I had to learn to forgive myself because I have been the abuser in many relationships. I have hurt many people that have not just hurt the person, but families, children, so on and so forth. And I had to learn to forgive myself. And so for that, that was a lot of work, a lot of work. And then in forgiving my mom, I went on a thank you tour. I thanked many people that were in my lives that held me when I was a small child, that were my safe haven. And I went on an apology tour. I, said my sorries, and I still owe a few sorries here and there. And then I restored a relationship with my mother. I hadn't spoken to my mother since 2019. And when I unblocked her, it was, and I might cry, sorry. My mom is the mom now that I needed my whole life. And I'm 40
Wow.
and she's 71. So it changed my entire life down to my career. I will do this for the rest of my life.
Wow. 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 Monica said, you're my sister. Yeah, she's I love seeing when people connect. But she says, anyone that she dated, she find out of
Yes, take a test.
yes, I know what I'm dealing with, but they do change over time. And it's kind of funny seeing, but it's unfortunate. Sometimes we don't know. We jump into relationships and we so surface and superficial initially, want to know the favorite colors and what are your hobbies. I'm a foodie. I like to travel. But these things sometimes they don't surface until you're 5 months, 8 months, 10 months in relationships, marriage, kids. Then you find out like there's something deep here. And I
Yeah,
don't
the what I call the meat and potatoes. And the other thing I will say, when I helped myself, because my therapist did not help me. I wouldn't say she didn't help me, but not in this. I did all of this research on myself. I became like I have a healthy obsession with this topic because I was able to integrate my education, and then even like I almost have like a social justice bug because of it. Because I'm like, wait a
really.
minute, this isn't something that we did to ourselves. We were stripped from our original self and our being, what God created us to be, what African culture really is, and then what we have today we call Black culture. And really we need to go back to our history to understand where we come from and what God intended us to be. But I sat in solitude. I did this literally. I never, when I left this relationship, I didn't replace that relationship with someone else. I sat by myself, and I took deep introspection on what I did to cause these things. So I played a big role in the suffering that I received. And that's how I was able to forgive myself, because it's like, why am I mad at you for the things I did too? We have to really learn to be honest with ourselves,
Yeah, and that's
take
not easy.
accountability.
It's not always easy, but
No.
yeah, it's one of those things. For us being in the military, at least this is my experience. We grew up coming up through the ranks, learning to listen to our peers. Your evaluations. They ask for input from others and getting monthly or quarterly counseling. So it's part of it. So me personally, I take critique easy, and not only do I take it easy, I actually look for it. I value it and wonder how I can become a better person. But of course, that's not
Mhm.
everybody. I like what Monica said too. She said she gets to the root. We all have trauma, and that's absolutely
Yeah, that's actually my SS, my framework says, understand the root, not just the behavior. So there is a root, right? So, and I will say it is a difficult thing. When I learned about attachment styles, I was afraid. When I took that test, I was afraid because I knew that whatever result was going to come from that was going to be whatever I had heard in the past that people have described me of, it was going to be true. So I literally took it, but I was still kind of like tapping my leg, like, "Ugh, I don't want these things that people have said about me to be true." And then it was. And so I learned to sit with it, because once I realized that I didn't do this. Like, I didn't want to be hurt as
Yeah.
bad as I was hurt all these years.
Yeah.
Then that reframed my brain. But the male population and my mother was an alcoholic. So there was so much shame. She could not sit with her own shame either because she knew she had let all of us down. But as men, it is very difficult to sit by yourself and not replace these feelings with others or food or drugs because we've been conditioning little boys that they should not have feelings.
Yeah.
So how can you face the thing you were told to reject? That
Yeah.
you can't.
That's a good point. Appreciate that. Monica, she says she went to her dad's grave to kind of reconcile that. Then she says, my daddy didn't do anything wrong. He simply left for work, but it was abandonment. He was our provider, but it caused a fearful, avoidant attachment, disorganized style.
Oh,
A lot of pushing and pulling, but we owned our own trucking company. He had to work, but he was my person, nothing against my mom. And this brings back to remember what we said before about the whole engineering, right? The 40-hour work week. I was stationed in Germany, and it's totally different. They don't put nearly the amount of hours in working in Europe as
yeah.
we do here. And even so, there are songs. What Kevin Gates said, I don't get tired, and people put in these hours and long days and paper chase as if it's a badge of honor. And you can see just off this comment what that can do. Just sometimes not out of anything other than a necessity. You got to eat. You got to provide for your
Yeah.
family. But she's showing
Yeah. And
how even that can look on the other side.
yeah, and then our history, unfortunately, has been this hierarchy of, white cis men, and then women and white women, and then black men, and then
Yeah.
we as black women are at the bottom of the totem pole. We've had no equal rights to even work or vote. So we literally were by design left to do the rear, bearing and the child carrying. So then that kind of like our we live what I call we live in the Jetson world, right? So everything literally is little we get deliveries from little
Right.
planes, and we get but our human has not developed, and our laws develop our laws and have developed, but our human has not caught up to our laws, if that makes sense. So
Totally. Totally.
even into what she was saying about working, even this type of work, going to school, constantly doing research, constantly doing all of this for what I would consider my life work. I've given my daughter so much voice that it is a blessing and a curse, but I've given her so much voice that she tells me, Mom, I know you want to help people, but you're ignoring me and it hurts my feelings. And
Wow.
so I have to put the paper down. My son takes a keyboard, or took a keyboard at the daycare, and types it and says, oh, I'm mommy, I'm at work. So already they're like, that's all mommy does is work,
Wow.
work, 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 work.
So even
Yeah.
in your healed, secure style, you have to be careful
Oh,
for
I
that.
make
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I am not the walking billboard for perfect. I am literally dealing with my own stuff. I just so happen to be so invested in I
Yeah.
was so invested in myself that I wanted to do this for others. And I love this subject. When I healed, I found my passion and my purpose, my calling. I thought I wanted to be a teacher at a university, so a professor, but then I am aware that that's just a certain population of people that would come to me. So then what I realized is that as my daughter is going to school and integrating with traumatized kids and she's bringing that home, I was like, oh no, I need to go to the people. So I created a framework and effort to have it, have some evidence base behind it, and obviously recognized nationally, so that I can put it in systems, school organizations, and it trickled to the people, because I can't go to every person.
Yeah. Well, and we're gonna work on that. So this is a great conversation. I know we got started late. We're gonna have to end here, but
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I give you time to wrap up the discussion and give us any parting thoughts that you want people to consider.
Yeah. I don't have much. I love teaching. And I just encourage everyone to look. I will say this, not everybody's ready. And I respect that. Doing this work means that you have to be ready. I respect even when people are not ready. because it's very you have to dig into yourself, and then you have to dig into the past hurt, and that is very sensitive information.
Yeah.
I was given permission to give, not to do this work, but also to give my testimony. But not everybody is willing to put out their entire life on Front Street. I'm okay with that, and my family was okay with that.
Yeah.
I would say do the work, but have compassion for yourself, because it's a lot. It will literally change your entire mind, which is the point.
Yeah,
So
that's good. That's good. She said it's hard work, and they make you dig. And just a couple of the final thoughts before I get out of here as well. I know you're saying for us to do the work, but you're also, as parents, you're responsible for some little ones, right? And I like that you always circle back to make sure that the kids are good. And how do you do that when you don't know it? You're not invested as you are. You know, ideally, if you can get your kids to the pediatric doctor when they're young, they're looking for these things, right? They're looking
yeah,
at how kids respond when someone else is carrying them or touching them, or when they can't see, mommy or daddy. Those things are identifiers that they can use to say, like, hey, you need to adjust here, adjust there. So I'm saying that to say, getting our kids to the doctors is ideal. I know that there is some insecurities there in underprivileged communities where access to medical care and healthcare may not be the easiest thing to do.
yeah.
Yeah, but and maybe we'll get into that later, like what to do when there's not a doctor or a
Yeah,
medical professional.
and I like to add to that because oftentimes, and I do agree with that. So, I work non-clinical work, meaning that I cannot diagnose, but I will refer out. I will say, this is what I would recommend for you to see, cognitive therapy. But some of these providers, unfortunately, are biased. They have their own biased opinions.
Yeah,
So what and we all have intuition, discernment. We all have it. It's just kind of clogged with everything, with our own trauma. But oftentimes I think we still need to sit with ourselves and do what we want with our children, meaning that mommy knows best, not grandma, not in every case, because sometimes mommies and daddies and all that, but definitely seek professional help in the realm of therapy,
yeah,
because we often shame getting professional help. We sometimes go just to God, and that's okay, but we need to integrate, our science, our biology, and our
yeah,
spirituality and our education, because we are a layered system. So for me, not having communication with my family, breaking the trauma, like going no contact, is how I got sovereignty of my own children, meaning that everything I did was with my what I wanted for my children. So I didn't allow anyone to direct me in the way that they thought it should be. That is easy. That is harder. That is very hard.
yeah.
But
It's necessary. Monica said
I
she got
did
two therapists. I
it.
love you coming right. She said I paid cash. That's how bad I wanted it. I needed to fix it.
Yeah, the
And that's
pain,
one of
it
those things
hurt.
that the road is not going to always be easy, but when you know it's necessary, you got to put in that work, and
Yeah.
it pays off. It pays off. I got my one of my childhood friends, Carlos. Appreciate you for tuning in. But yeah, she said it keeps me from talking to the wrong people. They're my safe.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's your antenna.
yeah. So
It's
go ahead and
sharp.
tell people how can they find you and follow you on what social media.
Oh, all the things.
Information.
Um, because I gave you a thing. So my website is thelivinggarden.com. Sorry, it's so much information in my head.
Yeah,
But you can find me on Facebook, Barbara Diaz. I can give, Gerard my information, and he can plaster it. He could do his magic.
I'll do that.
But thelivinggardenframework.com. And it's just has all the information on what I offer, the services that I offer. Just find me. I'm an open book, and I meet everybody where they're at.
Yeah,
So Gerard can help me with that and plaster me all over,
I
because
will. And
and also a t-shirt, so
so
you'll find me with an apple. Now that I'm a teacher, I actually have an apple.
good for you. So we'll also, if you don't mind, you can go to the comments of this show. I tagged you in it, and you can
Absolutely.
respond to the comments, the people that's on here. If you don't mind, go and interact with them.
No, I don't.
Yeah, and then you can put your information in there too. but I will do my part to help you share. So this has been fun. I appreciate everybody that
absolutely.
Oh, my good friend Erica, appreciate you tuning in too. And Monica, you appreciate all the comments. And but this was fun. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. But we're coming back at least 2 more episodes. This is a lot to unpack. We definitely couldn't get it all in a day. But if you'll have us, if you'll come back, we'll love to have you back on here.
I'm here forever and ever and ever and ever. As long as God leaves me on this earth, I will be doing this work forever.
Yes, so one more time out there, if y'all don't mind, please like, share, invite people to watch the episode, watch the replay if you didn't catch it from the beginning. But this information is only good if we're helping reach the masses. Appreciate your friend, Army Buddy. Really good friend, Ronnie Barker. She said, awesome show. Appreciate you, Ronnie, for tuning in. But that's it. You want to say goodbye to everybody before we get out of here?
Bye. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
This one here really do it for you. Baby, you